Hello. Hello, lovers. Hello, 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 hello. And a happy Sunday to one and all. Oh, let me get organized. Let me get organized. I can't get that song out of my head. You guys know the song? I can't get, I just, this is rolling around in my head and I cannot let it go ever since I was looking at Mitch McConnell's cards. The first thing that came up was we can only do, I think we have to do what, less than 15 seconds? Warren Zevon, Werewolves of London. Oh. Mitch McConnell, he's got the moon right over him. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Too bad. Too much chaos in this crazy, crazy world that we live in. Hello, it is I, Whimsy, the Oracle of Whimsy, and this is our Sunday get together. And what a beautiful, beautiful Sunday it is. The birds are singing yet again. The sun rises. We are all getting older. We are all getting wiser. We don't want to be growing older. We don't like aging. But there's my brush. Hello, darlings. Happy. Yes, I thought I would. Yes, it was a bit mucked up. Well, I brushed it earlier, but you know. Anyway, so as people are joining the stream, this is our Sunday brunch where we get together and we talk about everything that's going on in the news. We do some tarot card blitzes and we answer basic questions about what we think is going on. And I don't know, I would like to get you guys' opinions. It seems to me from everything that I've seen that we are going through a lot of changes. We've talked about the fact that Mitch McConnell has literally gone missing. Nobody really knows what's happened to him. You know, what's that about? Do we think that this is the end for Mitch McConnell? You know, or it seems to me, which is what I had said. By the way, hi everybody, thanks for being here. If you could like, share, subscribe to the channel, that would be great. It would be a great way to support the stream. Like I said, this is our get together where we all just hang out. We have coffee, we bond, we do all that fun stuff. And yeah, where's my, oh, I know where that is. I'm looking for something and I've gone missing here. Okay. Yeah, so I think the growing feeling, if you want my opinion, because I talk to a lot of people and we get a lot of comments here on the channel as well. But most people are starting to feel that Mitch McConnell might actually be brain dead. And others say no, he's not brain dead. He's like just dead. It is weird. I was looking at the artificial intelligence to try and figure out what was going on. And according to AI, that's illegal. They can't do that. You know what? A lot of stuff that's going on in DC right now is yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people are just in general losing faith in DC, you know? It looks like Grok is having a hard time giving me timestamps. I sometimes use artificial intelligence Yeah, I don't think I can get timestamps. Oh, okay. Now I got some what looks like good timestamps. Yeah, it's hard to get good timestamps because the computer gets confused, and it's just a fast way to do timestamps is to just take the video and give it to AI and say, go through the transcript and create timestamps. Seems easy, right? But unfortunately, it's not always that easy. The computer gets confused, and it thinks that it's supposed to create them out of whole cloth. And then you have to explain, no, we want you to actually look at the transcript. So it's a bit of a pickle. So that's what's going on over here. Yeah. So then the story with Lindsey Graham came up, and a lot of things can happen. One of the things that I've said to people over and over again is that as we get older, these long distance trips become harder and harder on our body. And one of the things that we are at risk for as we travel is clotting. And that's because the blood doesn't pump. You get really dehydrated also when you fly. So you are losing electrolytes, you're losing fluid, and you're having trouble pumping your heart, right? So people will sometimes get edema. You'll start to see swelling after a overseas trip. Swelling in the feet and ankles. The other problem is you have circulating air, so you're vulnerable to getting viruses and that sort of thing. So in the case of Lindsey Graham, everything that we were warning against, that this is dangerous for Trump to be doing a lot of long distance flights, and that he had reduced his long distance flights. His first year in office as number 44, he went overseas 17 times. This time around, it's 6 times, 7 times. So he's reducing his international travel by over 50%, Trump is. So the official reason that Trump is reducing the amount of time he's traveling, according to what they release to the press, is, he's focusing more on domestic policies. Because they always have some kind of comment that they can give in order to cover up what's really going on. That's not what's going on. It's not because he's spending more time with domestic policies. It's because his travel has been dramatically curbed, as it should be in somebody who's 80 years old. And that was not an easy trip that Lindsey Graham took. He flew into a war zone. Must have been incredibly stressful. He's not 18 anymore. And I guess he did grueling work. He was up at all hours. And then had to fly back. And they say he had an illness. He had a brief illness prior to that. So you have a case of stress, dehydration, etc. Yeah. So the IRGC, the Iranian Guard, is claiming responsibility for the death of Lindsey Graham. They're claiming they poisoned him, they murdered him. And so that is kind of the other thing. I think that they're pathetic. They want to take credit for anything and everything, including, I don't believe the IRGC killed Lindsey Graham, even though Lindsey Graham was not a fan of Iran. But 2C is reporting that Lindsey Graham dies of a sudden heart attack as IRGC claims credit. FBI intervenes. So the FBI came in, and they'll probably do an autopsy in order to rule out the possibility that it was poison. But when we went into, well, Knight of Swords could be an angry person who's violent that wants to hurt you, but that wouldn't make sense, because if you have a coordinated assassination against somebody, it's not going to look like they're angry like the Knight of Swords. It's going to be more methodical than that. But his opposition was the Knight of Swords, and we've talked about the Knight of Swords, so that would kind of correlate with what eyewitnesses were saying, because the Knight of Swords is associated with air or wind. When we look at the suits, if you're learning how to read the tarot with me, hopefully we'll be able, after our summer break, with people who are at the Elders and Empaths level, think about becoming a member if you haven't already, because there are a lot of great perks. We get together on weekends, we give free readings, an empowerment circle on Saturdays for members. And then we also are going to start up our series again of teaching remote viewing and also teaching tarot card reading to people at the Elders and Empaths level. And I really think that a lot of people benefit from learning these basic skills. But one of the things we teach when we talk about the tarot is we talk about the fact that each of the suits in tarot corresponds with a different element in Chinese medicine. So when we're talking about Chinese medicine and we're talking about the elements associated in Chinese medicine with the air sign, we're talking about the element of wind, right? Wind and ether. That is what it's associated with, wind and ether. And when we're talking about the Knight of Swords, we're talking about angry wind, which is why I've always associated the Knight of Swords with COVID. I've always associated the Knight of Swords with COVID because COVID was this kind of angry Frankenstein wind attack. It was attacking our wind system, right? So we wound up with inflammation and angry wind, trouble breathing, etc. So the house of opposition for Lindsey Graham was the Knight of Swords, and that kind of tripped me up because that's my COVID card. Now, a couple of interesting things that have been happening separately from the death of Lindsey Graham is the fact that there's been some concerns about the fact that COVID is back on the rise. They say that the numbers are through the roof again, and nobody appears to be doing anything about it. And people haven't been vaccinated. And the other scary thing, not only are people not getting vaccinated, and we've got this huge wave of COVID that's coming back, but these are new mutations. You wonder if COVID will ever leave us. And so they're putting people at risk for things like adult respiratory distress syndrome, etc. And again, one of the things that viruses can do is it can cause your immune system to completely freak out. An example of this would be swine flu, which was responsible for the epidemic of 1917 to 1919, or what came to be called the Spanish flu. Anybody ever heard of the Spanish flu? Yeah, so the Spanish flu killed 60 million people worldwide. Right? So 60 million people worldwide died as a result of Spanish flu. And the majority of the people that were taken out were young people. They got clots, right? So the virus caused an immune reaction, and then the body attempted to isolate those viruses, and it caused clotting. And so people began to throw clots, and that was just the immune system going crazy when it got exposed to this virus. And so that's exactly what the problem was with COVID. And this is the disinformation campaign about COVID. People said, oh, they're saying everyone dies of COVID. He didn't die from COVID. He died of a heart attack, and they said COVID. He died of inflammation, and they said COVID. It wasn't COVID, it was a heart attack. that's because the individuals talking have no medical training and they don't understand that a virus can induce the inflammation that results in the adult respiratory distress, the trouble breathing, the throwing of clots, the coronary artery disease, because it's such a violent inflammatory reaction in the body that if you are vulnerable to heart disease, if you are not that you would not have died if it had not been for the virus. Not that you were in the best shape possible, but that your underlying medical condition made you vulnerable. So it was interesting that basically his cards seemed to indicate that he went on a really brutal trip, that Lindsey Graham went on a really, really brutal trip, and that he contracted a virus during his trip. He was probably had people coughing and sneezing all over him. And the virus usually takes 72 hours, 5 to 72 hours to take hold. And, or he contracted it prior to him leaving, which is also kind of scary. So if he was hanging around at Walt Disney World in Florida, carrying a bubble wand in the Magic Kingdom and dining at Chef Mickey's at the Contemporary Resort, then that then that would be an example of somebody who's vulnerable to being exposed to, goodness knows what. I don't know. But that actually, have a good time. That is all I got to say is have a good time. Well, that was in March. So it was, but if it had been recently, that would have been like, oh, for sure. If he caught a virus, that was when he, all those kids over at Disneyland. There's one of those kids at Disneyland dreaming of being a Mouseketeer since he was young, right? I want to be a Mouseketeer. Oh, I got to grab the book. Hold on. Of course he wanted to be, and he wanted to be with Mickey, little Mickey, the actor. What was his name? I had a crush on him. It was one of the actors. Everybody had a crush on him. The original cast of the Musketeers. Well, you had Annette Funicello. Wiggle your ears like good. What is it? And then they had a second version, right? Annette Funicello. She moved to Florida, right? She retired. Right. So there was Tommy. That was it. Tommy was the one that everybody had a crush on, right? So I was trying to figure out the name of the boy that got all the creepy stuff happening to him. I guess there was like an expose afterwards that a lot of them attracted unwanted attention. Yeah, so hands down, the kid that was like harassed the most was Tommy. It's kind of so maybe deep down, Lindsey Graham always dreamed that he could be little Tommy, little Dennis, right? So y'all know the original Mouseketeers, right? Well, it's Lindsey Graham's age. That was the age he grew up in, is wanting to be Dennis. JJ. There's Tommy up on the upper left. He complained that he got a lot of phone calls from strange men. Yeah. So did Annette Funicello. In the case of Annette Funicello, she had like wealthy sheiks that were trying to buy her and bring her back to some foreign country or something. So the problem with a show like this, and it's a cute show, was that they were kind of naive. They didn't realize that um, that these women, that these kids would be preyed upon. But that's basically what happened, was that all these lunatics started getting their phone numbers, and they were kind of like in the middle of this whole horrible thing. But yeah, Annette Funicello, Karen Pendleton, Cubby O'Brien, Sherry Alberoni, Dennis Day, Charlie Laney, Sharon Bard, Darlene Gillespie, JJ Solari, Tommy Cole. Yeah, Tommy Cole spoke about that. Yeah, so there they were. So you have somebody like Lindsey Graham who probably grew up with a kind of fantasy about being in the middle of that. The other thing about Disney is it has this kind of forever young, that we get to be forever young, you know, walking around with his bubble wand, getting to be forever young. Those are stuffed with bubble gum, is that right? God, that sounds like so much fun. All right, so a couple of announcements before we get started today. We can go ahead and we can do the empath prayer, and we can hopefully bring in some good vibes for everybody. And again, condolences to the family. It can't be easy. Yeah, here's another example of a bugs run amok. From a Chinese medical perspective, there are certain diseases that thrive in damp heat. Damp heat. And what we're seeing across the country and globally is damp heat, right? Humidity is extremely high, temperatures are extremely high. So there are certain medical conditions in Chinese medicine that are referred to as damp heat. When we have a lot of dampness, yellow fever, you know, men working in the swamps in Vietnam or Central America, and then they contract certain diseases or illnesses that are associated with damp heat. And so then you go to the bathroom and you have this damp, this moist, hot infection in the colon. So this is this idea in Chinese medicine that the outside world and the internal world begin to mirror each other. So the kind of diarrhea you're describing is in Chinese medicine considered a condition of damp heat in the digestive tract. And it could probably kill you relatively quickly if you were flying, got dehydrated, and you had a coronary artery disease, an arrhythmia that would prevent you from having an adequate heartbeat. So the problem with dehydration and lack of electrolytes is that it causes an electrical misfiring in the heart that can induce a heart attack. So again, if he had come back, if he had contracted something like this condition and was dealing with a foodborne illness or something that caused diarrhea and an electrolyte imbalance, and he's already old, then that also could have induced a coronary artery event. But it didn't look like an assassination. It looked like he contracted something, got sick, and died. So I was thinking COVID, or this is another good idea, is that fatal diarrhea that's spreading all over the country. So all over the country, what is it? I don't think it's any coli, because It sounds to me like it would be more viral than bacterial because of the description. This is a foodborne or sometimes waterborne parasitic infection leading to nodal outbreak in summer. It's not a norovirus. It's not a virus. There have been 873 confirmed cases, 31 states affected, Ohio, New York, Illinois, Texas, and others. Cyclosporesis season. It can be contracted from human feces. So if you're going into a public bathroom, you might be able to contract it. It's not person to person. It's not easy to contract. It can also, but more than likely in your food, cilantro, lettuce, berries, etc. Watery, explosive diarrhea, fatigue, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, cramps, mild fever, gas, bloating, and weight loss. So that could definitely induce a heart attack and could be part of what happened to Lindsey Graham. So we just don't know. But yeah, I'm leaning more towards COVID though, because not a lot of people have that condition. It's only a couple hundred, and there's no major cases in the DC area. It's not really hitting DC. It is in the news because it's a new aggressive form of the parasite. But this looked to me more like just good old fashioned COVID or something like that, which is on the rise and nobody's paying attention to it. And it's all over DC, all over the place right now. Turn the light on. Okay, so I was up last night reading our book of the month. I wanted to announce that we have a book of the month club. And of course, if you would like to give us your book of the month, maybe your book will appear at the book of the month club as well. Our book of the month is Now Ever by Christina Bach. Now Ever by Christina Bach. It's about a imaginary world similar to this one. About a young girl. She has healing abilities. She's a misfit living in an island near Seattle, Washington. It's a great read. These are exactly the kind of books that we're looking for our book of the month club. And of course, if you've written a book and you'd like us to consider it fiction or nonfiction for our book of the month club, Chuck and Whimsy's book of the month club, please send it to me. Care of Dr. Whimsy Anderson, 1819 Southwest 5th Avenue, Suite 116, Portland, Oregon, 97201. And who knows, maybe you can become a member of our Book of the Month Club as well and have one of your books selected. That would be wonderful, wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead, turn the camera around and say hi to everybody. Tell us where you're coming from. We welcome everybody at this brunch from the four corners of the earth. Be sure and say hi to everybody. Tell us where you're coming from, what you're eating, what you're drinking. What do you think about what's going on in this world? Do you think that something more nefarious was going on with the passing of Lindsey Graham, or do you think it was just, like they say, he had a brief illness and seems to have induced a heart attack and he passed? Yeah, let us know what you think. And then, of course, we will do the empath prayer, and then we will blitz away to get to everyone's specific questions about what's going on. Of course, we'll also give you your collective reading today so that we know what the vibe is going to be like in the coming weeks. Hopefully, you'll all enjoy that as well. Let's go ahead and say hi to people. Hi, April M4338, North Carolina in the house. Good to see you. And Nancy Potter has come. Good to see you. Nice to see you here. Scorpio 8763. Hello. And Deb. Deb is here as well. Deb P9J, Kettering, Ohio. Very nice. And Tarot by Sharona. Hello to you. Good to see you. Tay Travers is in the house. Says, I can see John McCain waiting for Lindsey, but who in the world would greet Mitch? Did he actually have any friends? Well, he must have, because they made him head of the Senate. Probably has family members. Yeah. Hi, Kate, Kathleen O'Malley, wondering who's next. Well, the IRG is desperately trying to assassinate Donald Trump, so he is definitely enemy number one. And they're definitely calling for it, so that, because of everything that's going on, even though they really can't, it's got nothing to do with him. He didn't create this problem. The war that's happening, not even slightly. I mean, we've talked quite a bit about this, haven't we? That it was planned so many years ago. You can't, if it wasn't Obama, if it wasn't Trump, it would have been somebody else that would have gone in and done this, because it was a very scary situation that was coming in. They were getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's not something that I think Trump knew how to deal with, which was this idea of true believers. It's one thing to try and make a business deal with people that want to get a good deal, like when he was trying to negotiate for Hamas to leave Gaza, or get somebody to take Hamas to a host country and then pay them a ton of money to go to a host country. These were people that were so brainwashed and they were so indoctrinated, they were willing to die for the cause of jihad. And it was just a mindset that I think number 47 really didn't have a clue what he was dealing with. And he just thought that they would take the money and that would be it. The problem with the Iran deal in general was this idea that people didn't understand the culture, the mindset, that this was a cult, that it was a high control group, and they were willing to kill and do just about anything in order to be in a position of power. So I wonder if we have some of those signs of some of the protests that were going on. Here's some of the bombings that have been going on, but unfortunately, they weren't showing what I wanted to, which is the IRGC signs. So I can show you them here, but it's being taken very, very seriously. This is being taken very, very seriously. We will kill Trump, right? So you have this kind of movement. And the joke is that they don't understand that this is one of the most protected men in the world. He's not a YouTube influencer. The security over Trump, this is why he probably changed planes. According to the Washington Post, Donald Trump was advised to switch planes because Air Force One had better defense equipment, and because this fatwa is real, and they're offering $100 million, by the way. They're offering $100 million to kill Donald Trump. So you have to ask yourself, when it's that kind of pressure to take somebody out, even what Donald Trump has said, I could be next, because this energy is so thick right now. Yeah. Crazy, huh? So Kathleen O'Malley thinks that Lindsay could have been poisoned by Russia. Definitely, it's one of the issues that's come up because poisonings have happened, and killing any political dissidents, anybody that disagrees with Putin, is certainly something that has happened. Putin has assassinated a lot of people, and this would not be the first American that was taken out by Putin. Lindsey Graham was not a fan of Putin. He didn't think that Putin was our friend. He actually supported the fall of Iran. So yeah, I think he was trying to act as a go-between, supporting Zelensky, but also trying to negotiate something because of his support for the Republican Party. They wanted this thing to be wrapped up pretty quickly, right? Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the empath prayer. If anybody would like to receive a healing at this time, go ahead and give me your name or the name of the person that you would like us to pray for, and we will pray for them as we bring in the empath prayer. Okay. And great to see you all here. Happy Sunday, everyone. Ooh, Kansas in the house. I'm thinking about moving to Kansas or Missouri. I'm maybe just spend a couple months. I'm very curious about that part of the United States. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic Records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively as a community, we say Amen. And for those people who are requesting healings today, we come together at this time and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again, collectively as a community, we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, it's kind of sad. I don't know what happened to Lindsey Graham. He just told people in power what they wanted to hear. He was kind of a sycophant, wasn't he? Was he a sycophant? Because on the one hand, when he didn't think Donald Trump would win, he hated Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden, he was worshiping and adoring him, right? So he was a true sycophant. All right, let's go ahead and give a collective reading for the week. If this applies to you, you can receive it. If it doesn't, just pass it down. It's a smorgasbord of ideas that's part of the collective consciousness. And let's see what Spirit has to say to us. Okay, where you're at right now, the base of the matter is stay calm and carry on, as Queen Lizzie would say. Queen Lizzie! Oh, Queen Lizzie! Right? Queen Lizzie would say, yes, Queen Lizzie. Have you guys seen that video yet? A Brit tries barbecue. Have you guys seen that one? Yeah, it was a guy. He was like, Queen Lizzie, oh my God, my days, my days. I've never eaten anything so delicious. It was very, very funny. Um, yeah, I guess they went crazy for Texas. I like Texas barbecue too. They made me try to, what is it? They made me want to try it. You know, when I saw these Brits trying it, it was just like absolutely lovely. It made me want to try. Made me want to try. Yeah. Um, but where we are at right now is being about one's business, and the karma card is the 5 of Cups, which is grief. Hmm. So in plainer words, what they're saying is it just be calm and carry on. It could be a situation where you are feeling overwhelmed by everything that's going on in your life, but it's also being advised that you have to just carry on in your life. Or as Queen Lizzie would say, um, stay calm and carry on. That's right, darlings. You must stay calm and you must carry on. Yes. Stay calm and carry on. Be about your business. There's a grief here also. It could be just a general feeling of sadness over everything that's gone on, you know. Where we are at right now, Ace of Wands. I feel that a lot of people are starting businesses, or there's this kind of proactive feeling right now that um, people are just beginning to, they're not waiting for anybody to save them. Instead, they are just going and saving themselves. And I'm seeing a lot of new businesses being started with that Ace of Wands there. The crossing card at this time is the Hanged Man. A lot of people could be giving up what they used to do. And you have an Ace of Wands there, and also the crossing card of Hanged Man. So a lot of you could be leaving what you've done in the past and moving towards more independence. That's certainly what it looks like. Hmm. Yeah. What is above you? Scholarship. So many people are moving towards a scholarship, knowledge, academia, pursuing the higher things in life. It could be that now you're entering into a time where you're trying to learn more, find out more, and be more empowered. You may be just feeling that now is the time to take responsibility and fix your life in ways that you haven't in the past. And that's really healthy. You know, just because it stands in the 4th house, and that would be somebody who is taking a mature attitude. I will figure this out. I will figure this out. All right, hold on a second. Let me see here. Let me make sure you guys got it. Just dawned on me you guys couldn't see this. All right, so this is what enlightenment looks like, right?
Barbecue for the very first time. You got a brisket here, nice cornbread, and then some mac and cheese as well with some sauces. It's about noontime where I am, so I'm properly famished. Let's get into it. First, let's try the brisket. Get a good chunk out of there. Good little piece. Oh, look at that. I got the moist cut, whatever that means. You said it was a little more fatty, so let's see. Oh my days. Oh my days. That is properly scrumptious. Oh my days. No wonder your blokes are fat. I'd be a fat geezer too if I was eating this all the time. That is scrummy. That is scrummy, mate. All right, we got the mac and cheese as well for the side. Let's give that one a try. Looks like they put a little brisket in there. I'm not sure what that part is. Oh, this is some good cheese, mate. Oh my days. That is scrummy. That is scrummy. Oh, I'm properly chuffed. All right, now let's try it with the sauce. You guys were getting on me for not trying the sauce last time. This is called Texas twang. I don't know what twang means, but it sounds good at least. Get a fair bit on there. Oh my days, that is elevating. Oh my days. That is elevating. Oh my days, I'm properly chuffed right now. Get a little more of that sauce in there. Oh my days. That is scrummy. I am properly chuffed. They recommended me a second sauce called Smoky Mountains. So let's try that one as well. Oh my days. Oh my days. Oh, I'm chuffed. Oh, Queen Lizzie. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Let's mix them both together. Oh my days. Oh my days, Queen Lizzie, I'm sorry. I am sorry, Queen Lizzie. That is smacking.
Europeans in America for
He sounded like he was making love to the most beautiful woman in the world, didn't he? I've watched it 20 times. I just think it's hysterically funny. No, but going back to your reading, I like this. People are getting very proactive. Nobody's going to save you, but the good news is you can save yourself. If times are hard right now, you're going to just pull a rabbit out of the hat, because this is the time of the King of Pentacles making business. And look at that grief. Yes, America has changed. The world has changed. But am I still frozen? I think I'm okay, right? I froze. Can somebody tell me if I'm still frozen? I don't think I'm still frozen. Let me close some of these out here. No fro. I don't want to be no frozen. I think I need to close some of these. Okay. I'm fine. Okay, great. So this is business time, and then karma is grief. And then again, here you can see, here are your cards. You've got the Ace of Wands coming out in entrepreneurship, and then the crossing card is being willing to hang up ideas or things that don't work for you. And then your fourth house is the Hermit. So interesting. That Hermit in the fourth house tells me that many of us are going into scholarship mode. That's very healthy. That's very good. It means, okay, how can I fix this? What do I need to do in order to improve my situation? What you're sitting in right now is Two of Pentacles, back and forth between the two coin. It could be that many of you are looking at a side gig or you're coming up with other ways to bring a little bit of extra money in, because Two of Pentacles can be back and forth with your finances, but it also may indicate juggling two jobs or two opportunities in your future. You're coming out of a judgment. So there's this feeling like things seriously need to change, and heading towards Three of Swords. You know, if it's heartbreaking or difficult for you, if you find it upsetting what's going on in the news, and Lindsey Graham's passing, Mitch McConnell's passing, if all of this stuff is just too much for you, it may be important to pull back. We've talked about just watching the news a little bit less, and focusing more on what you need to do to improve your life. Six of Wands moving into seventh position means that as long as you stay single-minded in your focus about what it is you want to achieve over the next 6 months, you'll probably be successful. And the biggest risk to your success is distractions. Make sure you're not engaging in distractions, because you've got that Six of Wands coming in as your seventh house. So do you have a 6-month plan? What do you want to achieve in the next 6 months? And is it realistic? But I'm seeing this beautiful upward momentum for many of you over the next 6 months. Your house of opposition, wanting to make sure you're okay and clear financially. The Nine of Pentacles is a power card, and you see that beautiful power symbol all over her dress, the male and female power symbols. So ultimately your desire is economic stability. It can happen as long as you are focused on self-care. Here it is again. The Empress is the hope and the fear, the treasure trove that ever overflows. And the final outcome for you, Tower. So many of you are going through major events. Who here is making your physical health a priority? Who here is making your physical health your number one priority? When we talk about your physical health being your number one priority, what does your diet look like? I have been eating terribly. Okay, I'm just going to be the first to confess. I've been eating Cheetos and potato chips. I don't usually eat like that, but I've been doing a little bit of junk. I also ate a couple candy bars. All right, let's keep it real. So I know that I have to get back to the basics, and I have to start taking care of my health. So the fastest way to get rich is to make your physical health a number one priority. Why is that? Why is your physical health being a priority associated with better finances? Because if you're physically healthy, you can work another 10, 20 years. If you get sick, the biggest risk to your finances is physical illness. So what is the number one focus when we want people to be okay financially? The day-to-day acts of self-care, avoiding alcohol and drugs, meditation, yoga, stretching, moving, breathing, clean air, clean water, and avoiding things of stress. Because this Tower coming in could be letting you know that things are coming into your life that may be destructive, whether it's people, situations, the economy. Something has to change. The fact that your crossing card is the Hangman, if it doesn't serve you, if it's a person that's putting you at risk, if it's an emotional situation that's putting your health at risk, you must love yourself enough to separate from it. Because I don't like this Tower. And again, here, your karma card. Look at all this grief coming in as your karma with that Five of Pentacles. And then here again, you have in the sixth house, Three of Swords. So I think it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, you may be disappointed that people you trusted or people that you're relying on, they're not good for your physical health. And it's a drag. Now you got to go out and do this stuff yourself. Well, it was always your responsibility to take care of your health, right? It's always our responsibility to take care of our health. And be careful about not overwhelming yourself. I also am concerned about a stock market crash or an adjustment with this Tower moving in. I sold a lot of my stocks because I just had a feeling that we were looking at a possible correction over the next 4 to 6 months. So I sold my stocks and I'm holding off on that for a bit. Learn to enter new relationships with people that are going to be mutually beneficial. So if you're going to go into business with somebody or seek somebody's advice about new business ideas, finances, or some kind of work, make sure they're properly vetted, because it's okay for you to go to others for help when you're trying to accomplish certain goals in your life. Just be sure that you're getting the help from people who are trustworthy. I'm seeing many of you are looking for jobs and work. Those of you who are seeking employment will have employment relatively soon. There's a Page of Pentacles as the final outcome. If you're looking for work, you will get it. They're really warning you not to distract your energy and to stay single-minded going forward. So basically what they're saying is your job, based on these tarot reading of today, is number one, you need to get organized. Number two, you need to know what your priorities are, what you are working to accomplish going forward. Number three, they want you to build a 6-month plan and go forward. Be careful about financial investments at this time, because there appears to be some kind of crash in the future. Be careful about who you're relying on. You can go to others for help, but be aware of, just be selective about who you come to for help. And for those people who are desperately looking for work, work is coming, with the Page of Pentacles as the final outcome. Yeah. 4th house, do your homework. Be willing to do research. Be willing to study more than everybody else. Yeah. Health is always number one, because if you don't have health, everything falls apart. Don't take your health for granted. If you've enjoyed good health, be grateful for that and don't take it for granted. Yeah. All right. So when we get the order, we will blitz away, and then we will get to everybody's questions about any concerns you have about what's going on in the world. We will just blitz away. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like that guy, Miss Lizzie, who's eating the brisket, but if somebody offered me that and I was hungry, I'd be wolfing that down and I would enjoy it. But you can't eat that way every day. You want to enjoy your life, but most days you should be trying to avoid processed food, and you should try and eat more nutrient-dense foods. Yeah. Try and take good care of yourself. All right, we're going to go in and we're going to one by one conquer everyone's questions, and then we will blitz away once we get the order. I think that'll be fun. Let's see what's going on in the world. All of you have some good comments, I'm sure. We talked about the fact that poisoning was definitely something we looked at. IRGC wants to claim. I don't think that's what happened. A traveler 7781 says Lindsay lost his compassionate idealism. Yes. The three amigos, Mitch, Lindsay, and the clown. The transition. Wow. I don't know. AT, good Lord. Can you imagine the reptilians trying to clone Mitch? No, I'd rather not. Repubs are trying to stop any more Congress members from running for Lindsay's seats to save their 2-seat margin. Well, their 2-seat margin is gone. Look. Does anybody here know about the prophecy of Oshun, the goddess Oshun, leaving the earth, that she is leaving the earth? That the actions of men harming women and children are so bad. The lack of respect of women, the lack of respect, first and foremost, of mothers. Nothing is more sacred to this earth than the mother. The highest you can attain spiritually in this incarnation on this earth is motherhood. So the highest creation is the mother in the natural order. The Talmud speaks of this. The Talmud understood this. Why is the most important being on earth the mother? Why did the Talmud recognize this? Who is number one in the natural order? Who gets to eat first? Who gets the first plate when you're dishing out food in a tribal society before patriarchy and all this crazy lunacy? The first plate goes to the mother. Why? What happens if the mother starves to death and dies? What's the future of the tribe? If she can't produce healthy offspring, if she can't care for her offspring, what's the future of the tribe? It goes extinct, right? So a wise tribe came to understand what? The first plate goes to the mother. She's pregnant, she's expecting, or she's raising children, or she needs to be honored for her contribution to the tribe. So the first plate goes to the mother. She comes first. Yeah, who gets the second plate? The father, maybe, right? Because the father has to go out and get the food, right? If there's no father, there's nobody out there hunting, right? Woman gathered, men hunted traditionally, right? 80-20. 80% of the food came from gathering, 20% from hunting, right? So unfortunately, in this, children come last. Unfortunately, this is the sad truth of the harshness of life in the brutal world. Although will be other children, right? So people would terminate their pregnancies very late on. There wasn't enough food. People would terminate. We see during the Dust Bowl, a lot of women had kitchen table abortions. Basically, this idea that when we have more, we will have a child. But right now, it's so, in the 1920s and 30s, a lot of women had these kitchen table abortions. It was just something that it was one of the leading forms of birth control because people didn't have birth control pills, etc. So first comes the mother, then the father, then the children, right? So it seems harsh, but that is the natural order. Yeah. Well, a healthy male and a healthy mother and a healthy father produce healthy children, but you got to take care of them first. GOP hair is on fire. I think they lost their Senate majority this morning. Yes, they did. What's the problem with the current Senate? Who's left? What's the problem with the current Senate if you're a Republican? Collins of Maine, who's on thin ice, right? Does she vote with Democrats? Yes, she's the most likely to vote with Democrats. Her and Murkowski often will split their vote with the Democrats. So the seats that they have, they don't have. Murkowski's ready to declare herself an independent. She's talked about that. She's basically not 100% a Republican. She's more an independent, right? So they really don't. So what's the problem? What's happening in September? We got to balance the budget, right? We got to get the budget approved, right? Are we in trouble if we are Republicans and we're trying to get a budget through the Senate and we don't have anybody left? We need to fill those. We need somebody voting for the new budget by September. What happens if we don't? What happens if they don't get somebody in there ASAP by September? Exactly. I'm not going to say it, you say it. What happens to the government? Has this happened before? How nervous are the Republicans? Who's going to be blamed? If there's a government shutdown, who's going to be blamed? You see where we're headed? What's that going to do to the numbers in September? What's that going to do for early voting? And if people are voting in November, midterms, and they're battling the budget, and so they are so screwed. While they're scrambling to get replacements, Democrats should be getting their house in order. And if they can't balance the budget, if they don't know where they're headed by September, it's going to go even worse for them. Would you agree or disagree? If they don't know where they're going with the budget by September, how screwed are they? Are we looking at a blue tsunami? I think we are. A blue tsunami, yeah. Look, it was already bad before this. Is it supposed to be by October? Let me find out. It's critical. It's bad. It's bad for the that's right. Federal fiscal year runs out September 30th. I thought I was right. Because I've been reading things. I've been reading about the great Republican meltdown, and they're so screwed. They are so federal fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th. So what are we? I know. Can you put yourself now in the shoes of the GOP? Are you melting down? Are you ripping your hair out? Are you having a meltdown? Because I can tell you, I'm a pretty empathetic person, and that's how I'm feeling. The partial shutdown would affect agencies without full year funding, parts of Commerce, Justice, Interior, EPA, etc., depending on the package. Oh, frick. Essential services, air traffic control, border security, Social Security payments would continue, but with delays and unpaid workers. Risk of government shutdown is increasing. The response from GOP strategists is that it will take them years to recover from the damage of this administration. That is directly coming from them, because I watch NPR. I watch all of the news shows, and that is what the Republicans are saying. It's going to take us years to dig ourselves out of this mess because of the damage, the lack of trust. Iowa, how long is it going to take for them to win back Iowa? I don't know. Good afternoon, Dr. Whimsy. The Senate is going to be a different place, absolutely, without Graham and McConnell. So who takes the lead? Thune lacks popularity. So who moves the GOP? Guess Barrazo, West Wyoming. So who holds the current Senate GOP members? They're on vacation right now. So Senator John Thune of South Dakota is the leader. John Barrazo of Wyoming, Tom Cotton, Shelley Moore, Capito, West Virginia, James Lanford, Oklahoma, and Tim Scott of South Carolina. So that's going to be interesting. Excuse me. Yeah, let's take a look at the future of the GOP over the next couple months. I think they're in serious trouble. They better be able to balance the budget. That's all I got to say. And I think that my imagery is of the last moments of Amelia Earhart, screaming into the void right before the plane goes down, right? So somewhere over the Pacific, right? So this is the kind of energy you get when you go into the Senate, that right about now, they're probably screaming into the void thinking, oh my God, we're so screwed. They voted for this guy. They endorsed him. They put their own ethics on the back burner to get this guy into the office. And now he's become their biggest headache. He doesn't approve anything. He will shut down the government just to get attention. They are going to have to shift to the left. Otherwise, they're going to leave Murkowski and Collins, and then they've got the election in November. They're so screwed. We have a star over the situation, so everything is going to be okay, and it's happening. Look, the system is set up to deal with these sorts of things. The nation is grieving. There's some real grief. Lindsey Graham was dearly loved. I believe it was South Carolina. And then hopes and fears, 3 of Cups, kumbaya, coming together. Final outcome, 8 of Pentacles would be scholarship, academia, knowledge. So the intellectuals of the Republican Party are trying to come in and prevent this government shutdown that they're going to be worrying about in September, and also trying to get people to reach across the aisle. They're going to be able to balance the budget. You can see Ace of Pentacles with the Mastery card. Well, they immediately go into it when they come back. When they come back, they're going to immediately go back to the budget. We're already in mid-July, so making sure to pass bills and to avoid a government shutdown will probably be their number one priority, and they will have to make concessions with the Democrats. But the truth of the matter is, if Trump pulls some crap, he's not going to be able to keep the only thing it's going to do is he's going to lose the Senate if he tries to pull something. Nancy Potter writes, oops, Trump is cutting his flying down to 4 hours or less. His last trip, they stopped in North England for a while to accommodate him. Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we saw with Lindsey Graham, long distance flying, your immune system is not what it should be. You can get dehydrated, a virus can come in, and particularly if you have a cardiac irregular heartbeat, aging, he already has cankles. We do not recommend long distance flights for this reason. And unfortunately, what we were concerned about happened to Lindsey Graham. A bug can come and take you out. You're not 18 anymore, Kathleen O'Malley, right. If anyone would have an interest in Lindsey's death, would be Putin, since Lindsey was speaking out about, he never liked Putin. He said Putin is not our friend. He agreed with McCain on that. And he was right there as a hawk saying, bomb, bomb, bomb Iran alongside McCain. Don't think that Putin got Lindsey. If he had the ability, he'd taken out Zelensky. Right, Deborah? Very good. But Lindsey had his own security team, and he didn't have. Zelensky has Mossad agents. Literally, you can't get within 50 feet of him because Mossad is circling him. Zelensky is an Israeli. You know, people have to realize he is one of us. He is an Israeli. We're not all bad. Yeah, well, all Jewish people are Israelis, technically. Aronofsky Pate, who is the Israeli, he is the Russian oligarch that owned Station, was it called Station One in uh, in Ukraine? So he was an actor, Zelensky, for Station One, and the owner was a Russian Israeli known as Aronofsky who funded his campaign. So some have argued that because Aronofsky paid for the campaign, and because technically Zelensky is, for all intents and purposes, an Israeli himself, that Israel had a vested interest in putting him in power in Ukraine. And that's probably what happened. So we now have this um, person put in by Israel to oversee things. This was prior to the invasion. They probably thought, yeah, he's going to be able to work out a great deal on trade with Putin. And I think they didn't anticipate the animosities that would happen. Zelensky, of course, his relationship with Israel created a lot of animosity and anger on the part of Putin because Putin felt like he was going to take out his revenge. He was going to take out his revenge on Israel, right? So Putin was going to take out his revenge on Israel for installing this person, right? So it's this idea that Putin played a role in October 7th, the massacres that happened in Israel, and that part of October 7th is Vladimir Putin's birthday. Right? So the massacre of 1,200 people who were raped and pillaged, which looked like an old fashioned Russian pogrom in honor of the Tsar, fell on October 7th. And Putin was meeting with Hamas 3 weeks prior to the attack. So was Putin in on the attack of October 7th? And the evidence would suggest yes, that this was his vengeance. He was going to take out or punish Israel for Israel's crimes of endorsing Zelensky and putting Zelensky in that situation with Aronofsky's money. Make sense? All right, Kathleen O'Malley, Dr. Whimsy, if Lindsay was feeling poor before the trip, could he have had an undiagnosed kill? Yeah, exactly. That was what the cards showed, that he had a virus, that the virus caused angry wind and it aggravated his system, could have had inflammation, he's exhausted, he's dehydrated, and it leads to a coronary event. And that's basically what the remote view and the tarot seem to be suggesting. Yeah. We did not know if COVID was going to be a similar plague like the Spanish flu. Recall all the old people dying so much at first. It was scary. Yeah. 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 A lot of people are not wearing masks, but the truth of the matter is that COVID is back. Deborah Murphy writes, Graham will have an autopsy done. 1, he is a government official. 2, he died at home. 3, there is a question about his question about his diet. I think, was that diet? Had it in Hawaii. Oh, wow. The Sybil, oops, complications from COPD, all worse since my last COVID episode. My birthday was Thursday. Happy birthday, Sybil. Very good for you. Colo SF says, I had walking pneumonia, but never had COVID, thank God. I mask and watch wastewater levels before events. Yeah, you got to just take care of yourself, everybody. Shiva Dumas, Wims, can you take a look at the latest diarrhea risk caused by water food? Yeah, it appears to be an aggressive parasite, but it's not easily contracted and it's probably waterborne. We looked at that, so I don't think it's going to reach mass levels. Just wash your vegetables. Geocosmic Valentine, all the Disney kids from then until now have all been vulnerable to being trafficked. Yeah, well, that was what, when they did follow-ups, and Annette Funicello was kind of like vague about it, but there were a lot of pedos that got obsessed, and it's just really creepy. Yeah, let's see here. The latest illness linked to lettuce and leafy greens. Yeah, so just wash your vegetables. Some people will do, the Chinese plunge it in boiling water. This is why you have wilted salad in Asia. It's to kill for microbes prior to refrigeration. That's the whole story. Salt, rinse it really good, and then salt and also red peppers and ginger, those wilted salads that have things like spice in them and ginger and garlic. Those are all antimicrobial. So first they would wash it really good, then they would plunge it in boiling water, and then they would add a bunch of antimicrobial herbs. Latest illness linked to lettuce is ongoing multi-state. Yeah, cyclospora. I think I might have had something like that once before. 240 cases in North Carolina. Wow. Rose Blue, what herbs, plants help flush out a parasite from the body? Well, wormwood is number one, is wormwood. And walnut hulls, black walnut, those are antiparasitics. Hot peppers and turmeric are antimicrobial. Garlic is antimicrobial, but wormwood and walnut and cloves are the main antiparasitics. They're in my antiparasitic formulas, which I make, antiparasitics, I would put in wormwood and cloves and walnuts. Yeah. And that usually will take it out. Charcoal is good at absorbing stuff. It's an absorber, and so it will be able to absorb things if you have diarrhea, but it's not necessarily antimicrobial. Keep yourself hydrated if you do have diarrhea. Electrolytes in coconut water. Inflammation in the colon can prevent the colon from absorbing water, which can lead to serious dehydration. Well, the problem existed, Rose Blue, before they closed the strait. It was psychopaths that will gun down 40,000 of their own people in 2 days, having control of the straits, and then getting a hold of a nuclear weapon, and then holding all of us hostage with the nuclear weapon and saying, you must join our cult. And that was the terrifying thing that the world was faced with. And that was why it was phase 5, and that is why it was inevitable, and that was why all the data returned to phase 5, and it was planned years ago, and it had nothing to do with this president. As early as 2023, they had been planning this invasion, and whether or not they were going to be able to take out leadership entirely, that I can't tell you. But what we do know is we know as early as 2023, it was recognized as the 5th in a series of phases that would have to happen in order to stabilize the Middle East, prevent major deaths due to World War III, which is what they were trying to prevent. If you look at least amount of deaths calculated, and the phases, as early as 2023, they had organized what they were going to do into a series of phases and I was one of the independent researchers because I was working on my dissertation. I have another life when I'm not hanging out doing tarot readings, and that was working on my PhD to build peace zones. As part of the Abraham Accords, I had contributed my independent research and data. So that was what was going on with me in 2023. And so we had coalesced the data into 5 phases, and we had a pretty good idea that we were right. And we sent that data on to the IDF, to Joe Biden and the State Department, the Pentagon, and NATO, etc. And I asked if they would be kind enough to challenge my data because I was pretty sure we were looking at 5 phases. And so far, all of those phases have been adopted. So the first 4 by Joe Biden publicly, right? His 3 phases to peace were phases 1 and 3 that you see there. And then his 4th when he called for the arrest of Putin. So the first 4 were openly recognized by Biden. The 5th now we are seeing has finally been adopted, which is the dismantling of Iranian leadership. Didn't say you had to completely shut the country down, but you had to have a change of the leadership that was calling for the destruction of the United States, taking over the Middle East, murdering 40,000 of their citizens in 2 days, taking over the UN Human Rights Commission by paying to get in. I mean, the insanity that these lunatics would be overseeing the Human Rights Commission in the UN just speaks to how insane the UN has become. And a lot of people feel that we should dissolve the UN for that reason, because it's a bunch of dictators that have paid to have power positions in the UN, anti-Semites, racist beyond belief, racist against African nations. What they have done to African nations, the UN, would make you weep uncontrollably. You wouldn't be able to stop crying if you saw the way that they've screwed over Africa. Right? So it's not about peace. Oh, don't get me started. The debt, the money they made off of the raping and pillaging of Africa, we could be here for months. So bribing people, it's completely corrupt, the UN. The UN's a joke. And a lot of people feel that the UN should be. I'm pretty passionate about empowering Africa. That's a big passion of mine. I took African studies when I got my anthropology degree. And this is the scramble of, I believe it was 1844. Is that correct? 1847, something like that, when the European nations just went and took Africa. And the UN has been actively protecting Europe and their rape and pillaging of Africa. No question about it. So the data and what we know we have to do, and whether or not these parasitic dictators who are in the UN are going to participate, that's a whole other conversation. But this is what the data shows. Everything from not discriminating against people of color and not putting them in power positions. And when they do put them in power positions, they try to get the most corrupted people. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There's been huge exposés on the corruption in the UN. All right, Deb, how you doing? Some say Trump is hiding, and some say he went back to Walter Reed. He did. He went back to Walter Reed, and he said that he had another checkup. Boy, he's having his annuals every 2 months. It's the craziest thing. Let's take a look at Trump's visit to Walter Reed. Good to see you all here. If you haven't had a chance to like, share, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It really helps us. We're trying to get to 150,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I think we can make it. So thank you, everybody who's here. Trump, Walter Reed visits. He's been, I think that he's back and forth with his health, and I think he's getting scared, shocked at Lindsey Graham's death. I think that took people for a loop, that is how easily. I think that it's more proof for Trump and his ilk. We need to be watching long distance travel and seniors. bicycles, worried about a crash with his health. They're trying to they're trying to pin him together with pins and hooks to keep this crash from happening. That's what I would say with the Two of Pentacles in the Tower, and also rapid decline. Remember, the older we get, the more quickly our body declines, and the harder it becomes for us to recoup, right? We used to bounce back. At 22, we'd get sick, we'd bounce right back. We'd be back at work in less than 48 hours. But when you get to be older, it may take 3 weeks to recover from the same illness, taking the weapons of war away from the enemy. So they're trying to be proactive, but this guy's health is precarious with a Two of Pentacles and a Tower there. And so it really is just an attempt by doctors to stave off or prevent a major crash of his, homeostasis. They're trying to keep him balanced. And that's what happened. The guitar plane can't be refueled. According to the Washington Post, it also didn't have enough air defense. And he was asked to switch planes because of air defense, because of a tip by the Israelis. And that came out with the Washington Post. So it was the Washington, it was the Wall, it was the Wall Street Journal. That's right, excuse me. Wall Street Journal. There had been warnings coming in. Israel oversees the security of about 120 different countries. They're our top security country. So the Israelis had overheard that the IRGC was going to attempt, maybe with a missile or something else, to take him out. Maybe they had tagged the plane. Qatar is not our friend. We know that about Qatar. They're not our friend. They fund terrorism, which murders Americans. You know how many Americans died on October 7th? Paid for by Qatar, murdered those Americans. So the Americans died. Something like, 40, 50 Americans were killed in that attack. 350 out of Lebanon when they invaded Lebanon. They killed 350 U.S. servicemen when they blew them up in the early 80s. So they probably had tagged his plane. They knew where his plane was, and they were probably planning on hitting him with a missile. And so they grounded him and switched planes, which is exactly which was the right thing to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lindsey Graham's father, died of a heart attack. Yeah, so there could be a familial aspect as well. So again, vulnerable. You have to purchase a license in England to watch your TV. That's very strange. I've never heard of such a thing. I don't know why that would be, how you could use your TV militarily or anything. Thank you, Whimsy. You really have streamlined your perspective, knowledge, and peaceful vibrations to offer a clear path to truth and understanding. Oh, you're very kind. Look at you. Beyond our own personal experience, loved Europe trip. Oh, thank you, Sedona Askies. That's very kind of you. So I see many of you. Oh, look at this. Nancy Potter lost 25 pounds. Good for her. Scale tipper, I can't become a mother and don't want to become a mother, but I am a part of the divine. I think of all the bad mothers. I think the title of mother is earned. Yeah, you want to be a good mother, but there is no future to the earth without our mothers. They bring forth the next generation. And so above all else, they must be fed, nourished, and loved. We think about our own mothers. Who would they have become if they had been loved and nurtured and supported and given compassion and help when they were raising you? What kind of world would we be looking at? And that is the point. The point is that when the mother comes first, the world becomes a better place for everybody. We have less traumatic childhoods because our mothers are happy and well loved, and they know that the tribe cares about them. They know they're going to get the help and support they need, and we're looking at a very different mom. Right? So that is what this is also what the Bedouins speak about. Mother comes first. She eats first, then the father, than the children. Well, she takes the first plate and then she disseminates it to everybody else. She first feeds her husband, right? She gets the first plate and then she feeds her husband and then the children are fed. And so the children grow up understanding mom gets to eat first, then daddy, right? And I think in a way it creates a kind of stability in children that they know that mom will always be safe, mom will always be fed, mom will always be healthy. I would think that it would bring tremendous comfort to children to know that nothing is more important than your mom. Your mom, it has these safety nets have been created for her so that you will never be out on the streets abused by a crazy mother, because we're going to help her so that it doesn't get to that point. Do you see how it snowballs? So does the child get fed? Of course the child gets fed because his parents have been cared for. And so now they have the resources to feed their kids. Siobhan Dumas, well, the Bedouin, I believe the Bedouin are going to save the world. I mean, I believe that that we must return to the wisdom of the Bedouin prior to patriarchy. They worship the water spirits, Oshun, right, of North Africa. They were environmentalists. They were early primitive environmentalists. They built the oasis zones and protected them, which was the sacred space for women, right? So all of that comes from the Bedouin. And the Bedouin are creating the oasis in Gaza right now. They brought in the Bedouin. They didn't know how to handle the situation. Israelis didn't know. And I'm an anthropologist. In my dissertation, I was like, just bring in the Bedouin. Just bring their culture to the forefront, and you will save the world from oasis to oasis to oasis. So we know that an oasis was found in Saudi Arabia that is over 4,000 years old, right? So, and we know from what we have seen of these early oases that it's looking an awful lot like the rebuild of Gaza. When we look at anthropological studies of the Bedouin people, we're seeing the new Gaza. Looks a lot like Gaza, doesn't it? Why do we say that? Because 4,000 years ago, a wall was built in order to support an ecosystem of mutually beneficial oasis. There were 6 oasis zones, and they had a trade route traveling from oasis to oasis to oasis in a closed system. And they were able to create heaven on earth with this system, protecting these oasis zones, and there were 6 of them, just as there will be 6 in Gaza. What did they do right? How were they able to pull this off? How were they able to create heaven on earth in the middle of nowhere? And we need to learn, right? We need to learn from them how to build these oasis zones and how to, and bringing these oasis zones together in order to create a new trade route. So I just jotted it down what I thought it would look like on a piece of paper. And now that piece of paper is an historical, it's an historical document. So, but this is the original. And this, of course, expands the space for the Gazan people. They'll now have twice as much land mass. Yeah, because it was too crowded. They needed more space. So they will have they will have Gaza, and then they will have their own oasis zones on the perimeter as well. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? Pretty darn cool. But that whole concept of creating oasis zones came originally from the Bedouin people. And, these were not patriarchal. They were not patriarchal. They worshipped a female deity. And this is one unit. That is basically Oshun, the water spirits, and protecting the water and the importance of the sacred waters. Yeah. All right, we're going to close. Thank you all for hanging with me. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can find all that information below this video. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. Stay safe out there, everybody. And we'll see you next time. It was fun hanging. Thanks, everybody. Bye.